Greetings. This investigation is a collaboration between Adriana Belgodere and Fabiana Piñeda from San Juan, Puerto Rico. We are third-year law students at the Inter-American University School of Law of Puerto Rico. As part of our robotics law class, we submitted our investigation to Ethicomp. Our investigation is called Internet Speech Problems, Responsibility and Governance of Social Media Platforms. As we know, social media has a huge impact on our daily lives. The way we share information is instantaneous. It connects families and friends all over the world, and most importantly, it has facilitated public debate and strengthened social movements. We have witnessed this as of right now with the Black Lives Matter movement, a movement that has gotten a lot of support with many protests across the world. This one tool can even help politicians reach a position, or it can simply take them out of it. And it has been a voice for individuals with restricted expressions. To put it into numbers, there are 4.39 billion internet users in the world, and in 2019, there were 3.48 billion social media users. Constantly, social media usage keeps increasing, and it probably won't decrease anytime soon. New discoveries online arise every day and affect us directly. And the amount of trust we invest in social media platforms is increasing. However, our understanding of how they work is not. The internet has its pros and its cons. It can be a fascinating tool to reach people and information, but at the same time, this information could be false. This is known as fake news. The Cambridge Dictionary defines fake news as false stories that appear to be news, spread on the internet or using other media, usually created to influence political views or as a joke. This phrase got really popular after the 2016 US election because Donald Trump used it as a shield when media outlets ran stories that affected his image, thus creating a false idea about what exactly fake news is. However, the number of fake news is a small one. But the real problem is that these fake stories reach more people than the real factual stories. This causes people to abruptly act on misinformation by sharing, liking, and commenting. A study from the Pew Research Center showed that Americans rate fake news as a problem bigger than racism, climate change, or terrorism, blaming political leaders for this. But at the same time, they believe that journalists should be the ones fixing this problem. It seems that news sources in the United States have become subject to a Trump filter that categorizes their credibility and journalistic skills into pro-Trump and anti-Trump. Our legal system has remedies to manage other types of false statement claims against individuals like libel or defamation. But when it comes to fake news, there is no other person. And people fighting against fake news are confronted with the challenge of not knowing who they are really fighting against. Even though there are lots of fake news going around, the U.S. courts have not yet decided which standard applies when talking about serious intent online. However, they have used two standards. The first one requires government to prove that the defendant knowingly made a statement that was not the result of mistake, duress, or coercion, and that a reasonable person would regard as threatening. The second and stricter one is where courts analyze if the speaker knew his speech was likely to be perceived as threatening by a reasonable person and was intended to be a threat. In recent years, we've seen social media company executives like Mark Zuckerberg be challenged in different aspects, but always regarding the policies of the platform. Quite possibly, creators of what have become a communication staple did not see this coming during the first stages. But since these platforms have come to replace public squares, additional control and regulation is necessary. In order to regulate cyberspace, the United States has implemented different laws regarding the internet. Among them are the following statutes: Communications Decency Act of 1996, Child Online Protection Act, Electronic Communications Privacy Act, Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, and Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act. Educating the public about the harms of fake news is not enough to eradicate its effect. However, regulating speech on social media is a difficult and delicate task for the United States government, since free speech is guaranteed by the First Amendment. It forces the government to be extra cautious when regulating such areas. Social media platforms need to reevaluate their algorithms based on certain shared characteristics that establish what could potentially be a fake news story. These algorithms could have a source fact-checking tool to track its origins and thus flag questionable pieces. Also, these platforms can create a sanction system when the accredited sources are flagged as fake news. In addition, human intervention is essential for an effective system to work. Thus, an accreditation system should be created for these platforms to distinguish factual news sources from fake ones. We understand that a professional organization should be established for the creation of codes of conduct on the internet. These organizations would grant accreditation to the different news sources. Based on this system, accredited news sources would then be held liable if their content is proven to be fake news. But most importantly, these regulations should uphold the First Amendment rights of its citizens and at the same time control the excess of falsehood. This should never be a means for silencing people, but a measure for regulating fake news. With education and regulation, there could be better management of what people believe and share, and it could become a stepping stone in the development of fake news regulation.